So I think, it's 8:01. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's 8:01. And I'd like to welcome Alan Bowser today. He's the current president of the Montgomery County Civic Federation. And I believe, Alan, I'll allow you to kind of give a brief introduction, but I know that you've been involved throughout the county in many issues, especially in Silver Spring, for several decades now. So we really appreciate the opportunity to sort of hear what's been going on. The Randolph Civic Association was a member of the Civic Federation until about 11 or 12 years ago. We understand that the board is completely different now. So I think, a few things that would be helpful if you're not already going to cover it is, just a brief introduction of yourself, sort of what you've been doing with various civic activities over the last few decades. I think we're really interested to hear what the Civic Federation has been up to. I think you've been the current president since about June. And so we're interested to know what the Civic Federation's been doing in the last few years and what your priorities are as well. And then I think we can do a brief Q&A after that.
Sounds good to me. I've got that PowerPoint. Can you let me share?
Yeah,
right.
So Matt, do you mind giving Alan God privileges?
Will do. Let's see.
Thank you.
There we go.
Okay, let's see. Here we go. I love it when it works.
Yay.
Okay, can everybody see my screen and hear me?
Yes.
Looks good.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
So this is my presentation for the Randolph Civic Association. And thank you all for inviting me. Part of my agenda as the new president of the Civic Fed is to increase membership. And I've always been impressed with Randolph. I used to work for the county council. I used to work for a woman named Betsy Trachtenberg when she was council member at large as her chief of staff. And we had a lot of interest in what RCA was doing, and of course, all the development that was going on up there. There are some pictures of what our regular meetings look like. Up until the pandemic, we were meeting in the auditorium of the Executive Office building in Rockville. And that was a great place because they would let us use the underground parking. And so that facilitated getting more people to our meetings. Before that, we used the auditorium in the county council building, but that has been under reservation for several years. And this worked out pretty well. So we'll start with the mission. I took this off of the website and the newsletter that we have, that we're a not-for-profit countywide umbrella group designed to promote cooperation, education, and effectiveness of civic and community associations in Montgomery County. And it's been around since 1925, so we're coming up to the 100th anniversary of this. Let me just say parenthetically that a lot of the civic associations, well, this organization really grew out of sort of the segregated racist history of Montgomery County, because back in 1925, most of the civic associations had properties that had racial covenants. They didn't let Blacks and Jews in particular live in our communities. So over the last 95 years, there's been quite a transformation. And of course, in the 60s, those racial covenants were not legal under federal law. Right now, these are the current officers. I've been president. I've been involved with this for about 12 years, so I don't remember the circumstances that Randolph left. But, there's a pecking order, and I guess I was second vice president for a while, and then first vice president. And then it was, nobody else wanted to be president, so I became president. Tim Willard, who some of you may know, he's active in the Green Party in Montgomery County. Sue Schumacher has been around for a while. Jerry Garson, the longtime treasurer. Karen Cordry is the president of the Kensington Heights Civic Association, and Bailey Condry, Jim Zeb, Carolyn Barth, and Paula Bienfeld. Paula might have been, no, I don't think she was the president. It might have been Dan Wilhelm back in, the 12 to 15 year ago period that you guys were referencing. So these are pretty cool people. I enjoy working with them. And what I like is that they really are dedicated to what's going on in the county. And there's a lot of subject matter expertise among these people. Let me tell you about myself, because I am not married, don't have any kids, so I'm steeped in the civic culture of Montgomery County going back decades, but to about 2000. So now I'm the president of the Civic Fed. I'm also the president of our local civic association called the Park Hill Civic Association in Silver Spring. And we're located, if you know Silver Spring, the intersection of Wayne Avenue and Dale Drive, where the Silver Spring International Middle School and Sligo Creek Elementary School are located. Somehow, in my absence, I became the president of Safe Silver Spring, so I understand how he ended up in those positions. I've been the secretary of Conservation Montgomery for 10 years. We're having our 10th anniversary this November. You're all invited. It's going to be Zoom, and we always have a good time, because when we meet in person, we really have a long happy hour, and that makes our annual meeting a little more exciting. I helped start the Sligo Creek Golf Association 10, 11 years ago. There was an effort to try to close it down, and we lobbied very effectively to keep it open, and now it's a going concern. I'm very proud of what we've done. The person who guided us in that mission is a guy named Woody Brosnan, and he passed away just a few months ago. A brilliant guy, very, very devoted to sort of the civic community, and left a tremendous loss in our community. And then, as I mentioned at the outset, I used to be chief of staff to Dutchie Trachtenberg. Unfortunately, she lost her reelection in 2010, and I have a really good job. And I helped a woman who is delegate in District 14 named Pam Queen when she was appointed by the Democratic Central Committee to be a delegate. So I've got some experience at the county and the state level, a lot of nonprofit stuff. One of the things I didn't put on here is I started the Silver Spring Blues Festival, and I'm very proud of that. And of course, we couldn't meet this year.
Yeah.
The Civic Fed has got some standing committees. There's no surprises about this organization. It's like many nonprofits, probably like RCA, education, public safety, public finance, utilities, land use and planning, transportation, environment, and legislation. Part of what I want to do is I want to make all of these standing committees going concerns with co-chairs and active agendas. And right now, the sort of the most active committees are land use and planning, transportation, and environment. And legislation has got a spark. There's a woman named Harriet Quinn. Some of you might know her from, she's been doing land use and planning for a long time. She's very smart. She's got all the institutional memory. She lost her husband a few months ago, and now she wants to step back. So that's a gaping hole in sort of our committee structure, because not only did she know everything for the last 15 years, but she's an expert on land use and planning. Our treasurer, Jerry Garson, is the chairman of the Transportation Committee. He lives in Potomac, I believe. Lots of people are involved in the environmental portfolio. We, like many nonprofit organizations, we have a web page. I'll send this to you, Josh. We have a Facebook page and we have Twitter. I manage the Facebook page. And then we have a really gifted woman named Jackie Boko, who lives in the Four Corners area of Montgomery County of Silver Spring. She's in the Northwood Four Corners Civic Association. She does their webpage. Well, she does her newsletter. She does our newsletter, and she does our webpage. The Civic Fed meets once a month, except for July and August. We meet on the second Monday. And for some reason, historically, they had met at 7:45 in the evening. And I always thought that was kind of weird. So I think, at least via Zoom, I think I've got that back to 7:30 because people don't have to leave the comfort of their homes. And then our executive committee meets after the general meeting, usually on the following Thursday. It's usually the third Thursday in case those two meetings are in the same week. And then we move the executive committee meeting. And those have been by Zoom recently, and they've been pretty productive. Here's some more pictures. On the left is Senator Craig Zucker and Delegate Mark Corman. They've been to Civic Fed many times to talk. We invite them to talk about the upcoming legislative session in Annapolis. So I think that picture is from last year. Up at the top, Kimberlyn Prasad. She's the outgoing president of the Wheaton Hills Civic Association. I think that's correct. And on her left is Ken Bauer, who's the new president of the Western Montgomery Citizens Association. I think that's what they call them. Some of the guests that we've had over the course of the last year were Chief Marcus Jones, who came to talk to us about crime and public safety and some of the police accountability issues that have sprung up over the course of the last 2 years. And that guy in the upper right-hand corner, does anybody know who that is? That's Adam Ortiz. He's the new director of environmental protection in the county. Used to be in Prince George's County, and Mark Elridge lured him over to Montgomery. He's a cool guy. These are pictures. I know why I said because I knew exactly what these pictures were going to be since I made this. Every year we have an awards program. We've moved it all around the county. It's been up in Gaithersburg. It used to be at a place off of 355 called the Golden Bull. I don't know, people didn't like that, but they really had really good food. So I was disappointed when they closed. We moved it around, and over the last couple of years, we've had it in the American Legion building in Silver Spring. I joined as a member because my father served in World War II in the Navy, so I could join as the son of the American Legion. And one of the reasons why I did it is because the membership fee was only $25 a year, and I got to use the building whenever I want. And it's a great building for meetings. They've got a great backyard, an absolutely fantastic backyard, and the beer is cheap. So if there's any beer aficionados and you want to use a building, we've got a place for you in downtown Silver Spring. Last year, not this past year, but the year before, Jamie Raskin gave me that cup. It's called the Star Cup, and people have been getting it since like 1933. So I got it and didn't complain. So that was cool. I got to keep it at my house for a year. In the middle, the woman holding the certificate is a woman named Christy Daphnis. And she is now the chair of the countywide pedestrian safety committee. It also has traffic and something else in its title. So we gave her an award as a community hero. And the woman on the right-hand side, if that's how it's working on your screen, is Lynn Kapeloff. And she was the editor and publisher of the county's newspaper called the Sentinel. And we got the Sentinel Award. And when we heard that the Sentinel was going out of business, we gave her the Sentinel Award. So I learned the day before yesterday that the Sentinel has popped back like a phoenix, and it's an old product now. So
Good.
the website is thesentinel.com, and they sort of brought back their Prince George's property as well. So we don't have a lot of local news, as you know, in Montgomery County. After the Gazette was gone, the Sentinel was it. They went out of business with their hard copy. Now they have I get to admit Brian Hooker because I'm the host. So I just wanted to throw those pictures in because the rest was text. So Josh asked about my goals, and I guess all of our organizations have these same kinds of goals. For a county-wide organization, I'd like to see more geographic representation. Right now, it's pretty much centered on Silver Spring, Bethesda, and Chevy Chase, and Wheaton. And I'd like to expand the membership to do more up county. Would really like to get the Sugarloaf Civic Association to join us, get the city of Poolesville to join us. And then East County. East County has been underrepresented in many things. And so I'd like to invite some of the Fairland, Burtonsville, White Oak civic and tenant associations to join us. Right now, I'm guessing we probably have 80 members county-wide. Some have paid dues and are active. Some haven't really been contacted very much over the course of the last few years. I'm trying to reach out to groups like RCA that had belonged to the Civic Fed, because I think more is better. It's more fun. There's more diversity of views. And that's why I'm here tonight. And we really need to. I'd like to increase the diversity. I'd like to get some younger people involved. I'd like to get some, communities of color involved, because there's not enough. And you can see that when we have presentations, there's precious few representatives of communities of color. We need to do more to improve the use of technology. Now that we have Zoom, even when we go back to in-person meetings, we can use Zoom and Skype and Teams to sort of bring in people who don't want to travel that far, but who want to make a contribution to our work. And we can also use the technology to do special programs. So sky's the limit. We need more technology as an organization, because we really need to improve the way that we process membership and collect money and send out newsletters. We really need to find sort of the guru, an IT, a CIO, somebody who can bring it all together, because, there's a lot of moving pieces. And as we reach out to new members and want to raise money, it'd be helpful if all of that stuff was connected in a database. I want to increase member participation. Right now, it's kind of center driven. And so the executive committee develops programs, and then members of our executive committee take responsibility for that. And so that's a lot of work for us. So it'd be nice if people in associations would produce and honcho programs. So I'm trying to do that. And then the last thing is the recognition of community heroes. The pandemic has shown in bold relief how many people are doing real cool things around the county, especially around, the provision of food, because there's a lot of food stuff that's going on, a lot of food insecure communities, and some of the really interesting things have popped up around providing food. But then there's also environmental heroes, and there are educational heroes, and I'd like to just recognize those. We used to do that a lot, stopped over the last couple of years. I brought back that tradition starting this month of October, where we're going to recognize a guy in my neighborhood named Elliot Levine as a community hero. And Elliot's cool because he lives with his wife and his son a few blocks away from here. He's a nationally known keyboard player. And for the last 27 weeks, he's been doing these Sunday afternoon programs from his backyard, and he's raising money for Shepherd's Table and the Maryland Food Bank. And he's a really, really, really good piano player. And he's got some electronics set up that do drums and bass, and it's pretty amazing. So we're going to recognize him for his work feeding the people. So those are my goals. Priority issues. So I'm interested in issues that are going to engage communities, homeowners associations, civic associations across the county. And so these are important to me. And since nobody else really has an agenda, these are what I've suggested. And people are pretty interested in that. And sort of first and foremost is pedestrian safety. So I think that's something that all of our neighborhoods can get together around. I was inspired by a woman who lives in Silver Spring named Jennifer Chambers, who's a teacher at Northwood High School. And about 10, 15 years ago, she started a pedestrian safety program among the Silver Spring civic associations, where she designed a lawn sign, like a campaign sign that you put in your front yard, and it said, "Walk safe, drive safe." I think actually when we come back, when I'm off the screen, I think you'll be able to see a picture of it. And we got many of the civic associations in Silver Spring to buy 10, 12 of those signs. And then the first day of school and one other day in the spring, the neighborhood associations would put out those signs to remind people to drive safely and kids to be careful of where they're walking. It became a hot issue, as you probably know, last year or the year before, when the death toll from pedestrian fatalities in Montgomery County just popped up. And so a couple of groups, the Pedestrian Safety Committee was created by the County Council. The Action Committee for Transit, that's ACT, they took that on as an issue. And then MCCPTA, you guys know what that is. They were interested in pedestrian safety around school. Transportation is always something that affects us. The Purple Line has been really impactful in my neighborhood. I live off of Wayne Avenue. You all know about the disaster, the debacle of the Purple Line that we're dealing with now. The Purple Line tracks would be like 150 feet from my house. So it sort of came right through the community down Wayne Avenue. And it was very impactful because they cut down all the trees. They did lots of utility work. They changed lights, they changed poles, and now there's nothing. Last week, they just packed up and they left. So we're interested in transportation issues, the cost, and what the objectives of the transportation projects are. Beltway, I-270 expansion, they want to use another public-private partnership for that. And so we had some questions about public-private partnerships in the very beginning. And we have some questions about the public-private partnership that the governor wants to use for Beltway expansion. Another issue beside personal pedestrian safety, which is personal to me, are tree canopy and stormwater. So maybe it's because of my work with Conservation Montgomery. I've been interested in this stuff for a long time, like to sort of engage communities around the county and in planting trees. Montgomery County now has a program called Tree Montgomery, where where the county will give you a tree, plant the tree in your front yard, your backyard, and they'll take care of it for 2 years for free. So it's a great program, very popular. I'd really like to get our neighborhood associations and homeowner associations take advantage of that so we can increase the tree canopy. Down here in East County, it's a little thin. Not so thin in RCA. I was running there a couple of weeks ago, and it was fun. We started. I belong to a running group, and we started at White Flint, and we ran through your neighborhood, and it's a beautiful neighborhood. And then stormwater, and that's been an issue for me for a couple of decades. But of course, over the last month, we've had 2 extreme rains, and we had a lot of neighbors who had flooding. sewers that backed up. I live 2 blocks away from Sligo Creek, and that was flooded. It was just terrible. And so there's a whole conversation that's ongoing with the Audubon Naturalist Society and some other people about what the county can do, not only to protect the creeks and the streams, but to keep more water on site with green infrastructure. So I'm interested in those kinds of things, permeable sidewalks, permeable driveways, more trees, and then protecting the creeks, which now are, so much wider than they were just a few years ago. I've got a background in energy, so I like energy efficiency. Land use and planning is something that's of a priority interest to us this year because it comes around every couple of years where the county takes into consideration the subdivision staging policy, which used to be called the Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance, to meld development with police infrastructure, fire infrastructure, school infrastructure, and things like that. So we've got an abiding interest in what the county's planning to do that. I see you've got the general plan on your agenda for this evening. And then one of the things that I've always been interested that the Civic Fed was in that, is sort of a transparency and accountability. And over the course of the last couple of years, Josh asked us what we've been working on. The place where we had the most success was working with Senator Ben Cramer from District 19 on inspector generals. And through our initiative, and how hard it is to get success in something that you're interested in. Through our initiative, Ben Cramer was able to get the Maryland General Assembly to agree to establish inspector generals in WSSC, the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, MNCPPC, the Planning Commission, to Montgomery College, and to enhance the inspector general that the county has so it could look at MCPS. So we think those are all big wins. And so now there's more staff. And so when it comes to sort of questions of how they're spending their money and how efficient they are, what their performance metrics are, there's something in place, and the Civic Fed did that. And I'm as blown away as anybody that we were able to score on that. These are our programs for the 2021 year. Last month, we had 2 people from the planning board talk about the subdivision staging policy. We also had a quick review of the county and state ballot initiatives. The general plan is going to be the discussion at our October meeting, and Gwen Wright, who's the planning director, is going to be our speaker. You all are invited to participate since it's Zoom. Transportation, Jerry Garson is putting together a program, and I think we might focus on the sort of the outlook for the Purple Line and what people are thinking about public-private partnerships after the Purple Line. We'll invite some delegates and senators in December to preview the General Assembly. In January, I hope to have Mark Elrich, who's a friend, to come in and just give us a big picture of COVID and transportation and housing and development issues, the environment. I hope to have the police chief back to talk about police reform, because they are starting to move on that. March, pedestrian safety. Actually, would like to do more in pedestrian safety than just have a meeting in March. I'd like to sort of put it as part of a program in December, maybe. We have a program in April on the budget. That might be backwards. The budget comes out, well, I think the budget comes out on March 15th. So our April program is, we've had Rich Madalino and some other people come and talk to us and answer questions about what they're anticipating in the budget. And it's going to be really interesting this year because the the state and the county don't have any money. I'm almost finished, Josh. And then I can't see on my screen. Well, oops. I don't know. What does it say for May? Environment. And then an awards program in June. As I said, one of my priorities is to increase membership. So since I started in June, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 new members, mostly in Silver Spring. A lot of these people are part of the, what do you call it? The President's Council of Silver Spring Civic Associations. Good Hope Estates is up New Hampshire Avenue near Norwood. Springfield Civic, that's a big one. That's sort of in the part of Bethesda River Road where they're going through the development issues over there. And the rest of them are ones that should have been part of the Civic Federation all throughout this. And so we would really like to put RCA on this list. I can't tell you how much I'd like to have RCA on this list. And how much does it cost to do that? Well, you can go online to our webpage, and you can either do it by paper or you can do it electronically. But depending on how many households you have, that's what the annual dues are. So my Civic Association has got like 298 houses, so we pay $35 a year. And I don't know, what does RCA have, Josh?
Over 1,300.
Whoa! So what a deal! What a deal! So it doesn't go up. It doesn't go up that far. So instead of paying $130, you could get in for $65. You can have up to 4 delegates. So anyhow, that's my PowerPoint that I prepared for you. I hope it gave you a good tour of the horizon of what I'm about, what we're trying to do, and we would love RCA to join us. So with that, I will stop sharing. Do I have to give it back to somebody, or do I just stop sharing? Let's see what happens. Voila.
There we go. Matt's able to. Thank you very much. So I'd like to reserve, I just want to be cognizant of time, maybe about 12 minutes for questions. And I was going to kick it off. I had a question actually about your last slide about, you were talking a little bit about voting privileges. One question that I have is, when a particular issue comes up, what does the, from a parliamentarian perspective, what does the discussion look like? Is it, sort of a majority rules kind of, we haven't had the chance to, or I haven't had the chance to look at your bylaws. Is it a majority rules kind of environment? Is it really about reaching consensus, or even, talking about like 80%? I'm just more thinking about some tricky issues. And could you kind of talk us through, your sort of perspective on how you navigate those issues?
So there are bylaws, and up until when I started sort of putting my finger on the scale, there weren't many votes. There were a lot of conversations where notable people would come in. They would talk about something like police accountability or stormwater, and there never was any follow-up. I could tell that the people who came to the meetings, really wanted to vote on things. So we like voting, and so we started voting on resolutions. Recently, we have a procedure which is kind of rigid in that a resolution should be posted in the newsletter in advance, a month in advance, so people know what's going to be considered. We usually have a good wide-ranging discussion about a particular issue, and then we just vote on it. Typically, we'll get 20 to 25 people on since we started doing Zoom, we've been able to do 40 to 50, 55 people who participate. But when we were meeting in person, we had, very few people who were representing civic associations, homeowners associations who were eligible to vote. So there wasn't a lot of voting, but there is a lot of interest in that. So there's there's a strict, rigid procedure about the executive committee can introduce a resolution for consideration that goes in the newsletter a month before. Delegates can introduce resolutions and there's a conversation. And then we have, when you're not very nimble with that kind of situation, so we do have a procedure, I believe, where the delegates from 5-member organizations can move to have a particular issue considered at a meeting without having it posted in the newsletter. And we've done that a couple of times when we needed to be more proactive. So there's been good discussion. People like to vote. Let me just give you an example of one of the situations I'm dealing with now. So one of the ballot questions this year is on 9 districts. You guys know about 9 districts. And the Civic Fed in 2005, I must have just started. I mean, I knew about them because I wanted to be on the planning board, so I had to come to the Civic Fed, for an interview and try to get their blessing. But evidently they spent like $15,000 on a petition drive to get the 9 ballot question, to get the 9 district question on the ballot. They were successful, they lost. But they had taken a vote and that was their position. So it's been the position since 2005 that the Civic Fed supports 9 districts. I'm not a big 9 district supporter, having worked for, an at-large county council member. And so we presented the ballot questions last month, just as sort of information, but then one of our delegates said we should vote on it in October. And so there's going to be a conversation about not about A and B, but about D, about whether or not that's going to continue to be the Civic Federation's position. And we may not have a vote, but I'm going to offer it up to the body if they want to basically say that they still are in favor of 9 districts. It'll be an interesting conversation. My guess is that we will have a vote from that, but that's going to be on the basis of a motion from the floor from 5 different civics. So my interest is to give everybody an opportunity to speak, and people are not afraid to speak. And like I said, there's a lot of subject matter expertise in the room. So that's how it works. There's some issues where there's consensus. One issue where there was consensus at our last meeting, as we thought that the Beltway, the draft environmental impact statement for the Beltway, which was 18,000 pages, nobody had a chance really to read that. And with the changes of traffic from the pandemic, we thought that the State Department of Transportation needed to slow down, that they needed to sort of reevaluate their assumptions about Beltway expansion and I-270 expansion, and that they should wait until there could be more community engagement around that issue. So that was a consensus issue. Everybody agreed that civic association, homeowner associations, and residents should have more of an opportunity to read the document and to comment. So we passed a resolution calling on them to slow down the process. So that was a consensus around there. What else you got? Do you guys do, is pedestrian safety a big thing for you?
Only at a few key spots. We have what most people characterize as the intersection from hell, which if you've ever driven through our neighborhood or when you're running through, is close to our shopping center. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of walkers. We have a lot of dog walkers, runners. I mean, because we're so close to the park, there are certainly a lot of people on the streets, and we live in a dense neighborhood as well. And so even if a small percentage of our population is walking, it still represents a pretty high magnitude. So we've talked, talking about the general plan, pedestrian and also bike safety were big priorities for our community. I did want to open up the floor to other people. I had asked a question. Does anyone else want to ask a question of Alan? I just want to be cognizant of the remainder of our agenda as well.
Let me say this while they get their thoughts together. I don't know. You've got a large community, a lot of households. I've noticed a lot of civic associations have sort of been struggling to grow their membership and to move forward. And so by offering up programs like pedestrian safety, bicycling, stormwater, cleaning up parks. I didn't put that on the PowerPoint, but I'm really interested in creek cleaning and the stream cleaning. Those are the kind of things that really sort of engage families and people from, you can understand, it brings the community together. So I'm sort of offering this out as sort of a countywide template to help build the civic associations. And I noticed a lot of community interest around pedestrian safety in particular. So that's why I made it the top priority of the Civic Federation this year. So it's not divisive like 9 districts. It's not divisive like property taxes. Those are important issues, but I'd like to see a resurgence of community engagement and civic activism, and I think you can do it around cleaning parks and protecting pedestrians.
Where has the Fed? Sorry, I'm Matt Tifford. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Matt.
Nice to meet you. Where have you guys stood on bike lanes and other improvements like that tend to be unattractive to a lot of folks who primarily drive and aren't interested in sharing with bikes?
So I've been playing this vineyard for a while. So there's a lot of energy around biking and walking and protecting the parks and maintaining buildings in parks. We've done a lot of innovative things in Silver Spring. The planning board chair, Casey Anderson, is a big bike guy. Hans Reamer's a big bike guy. They spend lots of millions of dollars on bike infrastructure. So we support that. One of our past presidents is a woman named Peggy Dennis. And she's a big biker. She was part of the advisory committee for the bike master plan. It was a bike master plan. Yep. And one of the things that she did, and I'm sad that she didn't get enough credit for it, is she was able to help convince Pepco to open up the lands underneath the power lines. So there'd be some cross-country trails that would go from one community to another. Other people took credit for it, but for her, just mentioning it all the time, that wouldn't have happened, and it wouldn't have happened as quickly. So we're all about bikes. I'm a biker, mountain bikes, not road bikes, but I like bikes, and so we're all about bikes. We're all about getting people out of cars and walking. I think there's a smart growth community, within the Civic Fed, and so we try to balance that. I think there's also an appreciation for the importance of the ag reserve, and so one of the issues which pops up informally, and we haven't really talked about, is whether or not there should be large solar arrays in the ag reserve. I've always been interested in making the ag reserve more popular to the people. There's some people in Silver Spring who have never been to Poolsville. They've never been to Damascus. Now there's some good breweries up there. So I've always been interested in sort of getting people out of their cars and onto their bikes and go see the sunflowers and go to Dickerson and do some exploring. Because I guess, as most of once you get sort of north of Gaithersburg, it's like a completely different country up there. I mean, it's very, very different. So there are, it's a pretty enlightened community, knowing that pedestrians and bikes are really important, but then protecting, the natural environment is really important too. I wouldn't do this if there was any negativity, because we spend, like, here we are, it's what is it? When I don't even know what date it is, Wednesday. It's Wednesday at 8 o'clock, and here were volunteers talking about what's good for our communities. I think it should be fun. I think it should get us out, along the creeks and riding bikes and having parades and things like that. So that I would, I can only do this if it was fun and if there were fun people around. So,
Sure.
guys, you're showing your commitment right now. That's why I want RCA to be on that list. Any other questions? So that's me. You guys can think about it. You don't have to do it now. It's going to be cheap. What did it say? $65.
Right.
So, divide that by 1,300. It's a fraction. It's nothing. And we'd be glad to have you. I can extend this offer to you if any at all, and I would think you'd only recommend good people. If anybody wanted to be a committee chair, we could do that. I could do that right now. If Matt wanted to be a committee chair for pedestrian safety, he could be the committee chair right now. I also get to appoint some executive members at large. I'm not sure how many, 6 or 8. So anybody who wants to participate can participate and try to guide the conversation, because I'm doing a lot of this by myself. A lot of the people who are on the executive committee with me, I just turned 68, as scary as that is. But a lot of the people in the executive committee are older than I am. Well, not a lot, but some are. And so the idea of getting people who are, 40s and 50s and 60s would be really welcome. Just need some energy and some good ideas and some help in sort of making this group bigger and better. So I don't know which civics are around you as I learned this. Who's around you, Josh, in terms of community associations?
We have the Rock Creek Palisades Citizens Association about a half a mile away. I actually don't know if Holiday Park has one, but I think there's one also in Parkwood, but I actually don't know their exact name.
So
Tifford
Parkwood
probably knows.
Yeah, so Parkwood's the member.
Yeah.
You're close to Twinbrook?
Maybe, yeah, that's like the next big chunk of unincorporated Rockefeller. I guess part of it's incorporated, right? But yeah, we have some civics around us too. No, I think this has been really helpful. So we really appreciate it, and maybe we'll appoint someone who turned off their video, like Chad. But no, I think. He's back.
Hey, Chad. don't turn off your video with this group. Don't turn off your video with this group.
Hey, Colby.
Yeah,
that's
right. Not here.
Colby's not here.
Our treasurer's in school right now, so maybe. But no, in all seriousness,
he's almost done.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Well, the board and our community will have a discussion about it. I think we can get back to you in the next few weeks.
Okay.
We really appreciate the dialogue. We, at least personally, I liked hearing what you were talking about. A lot of the priorities that you mentioned are activities that we regularly conduct. I mean, we have a stream cleanup in our neighborhood in 9 days, and so anyway, I really appreciate it.
I will send you the PowerPoint so you can have that if you want to share it among your committee, and I'll also send you the link to the October meeting if you want to check into that, and hope to hear from you in less than a few weeks with a favorable decision and a check. So I'm gonna look for some sports on TV and drink a beer. So I'll leave you guys to your own deliberations.
All right.
All right. So thank you.
Enjoy
Nice
your
meeting
beer.
you all. Hope to meet
Thank
you in
you.
person someday.
Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Alan.
Yep. Bye.
Thank you, Alan.
Matt, do you mind letting me share my screen?
Yeah, here you go. Here you go.
The non-video Josh.
There you go. And
Okay, thank you.
I got to step out for 1 second. I'll be right back.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Okay. So I just wanted to briefly touch base. Some of these items on the membership drive are mine, and a few others are Matt. So I'll just kind of briefly talk about at least my items while Matt steps away. I'm hoping that he already set up a Venmo account. If not, I think that's something that's simple enough. I think what we're going to be trying to do as we start our membership drive is to... Oh, sorry. Could you mute if you're not talking? I'm hearing a little bit of feedback. Thank you. So I think one thing that we're trying to do this year, at least from a fund perspective, is to try to go a little bit more digital so that we can try to extend our membership base without doing too much work. So that's, just one aspect. I mean, we have a lot of other activities that I think we need to do, like engagement and things like that. But, so QR code is actually something that Matt came up with. And effectively, I think what he's proposing to do is print this QR code that you can just take your phone, scan it, and it would be on the print version of the Echo, and it would take someone directly to a link where they could, join up as a member. And I thought that was a really clever idea. And I think that's something that we should do. And I'm hoping that no one has any issues with that. Sorry, let me get rid of that. Okay. I think that Colby might actually be the holder of the membership form. Do you know, is anyone on the line aware of who's sort of the holder of that?
It might be me. I'll check, but it's probably Colby.
Okay, and if that's something he can't do, it's a pretty straightforward task. I just wanted to make sure we have our copy deadline for the Echo this Friday, and I just wanted to make sure that we have the membership form ready for it. Matt, I heard you're back. Do you want to talk a little bit about Venmo? I wasn't sure if you had any update on that.
Oh, Venmo? Well,
yeah, didn't you put that on the agenda?
That was a yeah. Well, I just wanted to see if we could get a Venmo account, but that's going to have to be Colby because he's the owner of the checking account, and so he would have to sign up for Venmo with the treasurer email, and then do the banking, link the banking account to the Venmo. So, but yeah, it's very easy. I think it takes like 5 minutes tops.
Okay. Yeah. So I have a note that we can. I'll send Colby a message to ask him to do that, so we can also advertise that in this month's Echo.
And we could also do, the other one is Cash App, which is also pretty popular. They're they're very easy to set up, and you can make a little code, and then anyone who has the app just scans it and can pay just like that.
I have Venmo, and it is very easy to set up, but the treasurer will have to do it.
Yeah. So
I don't even remember how easy it was to set up. It was so long ago.
Yeah, it's quick.
Okay.
But you need the checking account information.
Yep.
Okay.
But I think that would, Richard Ziert was always a big believer on, putting an envelope in the Echo with a stamp on it. So all they had to do, all they had to do was stick the check in there and drop it in the mail. So that level of ease would help drive membership better. But I think doing something like this these days is even better than that.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't cost $500 every year to do.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with a QR code or something like that. I mean, those are all great ideas. And that kind of is a segue to the next item, which I wanted to talk a little bit. We talked last month about setting aside some dollars for a Facebook advertising budget. We didn't really talk specifics. I think maybe, at least for the calendar year, I wanted to propose just setting aside maybe like $50 just to see what kind of campaign, and we can talk on Slack about actually what $50 will get us.
RCA meeting.
In terms of a
Are
campaign.
you on video?
Yeah.
but I wanted to set aside
Oh, right.
$50 at least until the end of the calendar year so that we could boost a few membership posts. And I wanted to see if there was anyone who was opposed to that.
I think we actually have some kind of a promotional credit right now with Facebook too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Worth trying. I mean,
yeah. I mean, last year we spent about $200 or $300 on buying the membership cards, and they roughly paid for themselves. So, but at least at the beginning it was a gamble, and so I'm kind of curious. We should be able to get some, click metrics on the posts that we boost, so we'll be able to sort of see if this initial foray into Facebook boost posts actually will pay for itself or not.
Josh, I just had a thought. What would it take? I wonder what's involved in advertising on Nextdoor, because we've got a ton of people on Nextdoor.
oh, that's a really good.
Well,
I never thought about that.
I mean, do you mean paying for an advertisement or just like frivolous?
No. Like paying Nextdoor for an advertisement. Yeah.
I was just smirking at the fact that effectively you, me, and Nell are the leads on Nextdoor, and so we do control.
Approved.
Yeah, I mean, we control the Randolph Hills feed at least. So.
Okay, so we could totally illegally advertise. Yeah, that would be quite easy, actually.
Yeah. So someone added Community Day, I think, but is the goal effectively to have some kind of membership presence when we have our Community Service Day?
Is everybody just? Is there going to be a gathering at the beginning?
Yeah, we haven't really talked about it, but yes. I mean, just for people who are comfortable, and that's we don't really know what that is, but we're talking about doing something really, really simple, like having donuts, which is, I think, something that the RCF does commonly anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if there's some gathering at the beginning where, I mean, we should have a plug in for membership dues. I don't know. Nara shows up with the. Go ahead.
Is this the stream cleanup day? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, October 10th, and we'll talk a little bit about it. And I still haven't posted on social media about it. But yeah, I think it's worth having maybe a little spiel about. Okay, the other item I think that could be helpful is to sort of kick off the membership drive is before the Community Service Day having an email blast. So we'll talk a little bit, we can talk about Community Service Day and anything else that people are interested in. So I have a sort of a list in my mind, but if you have any thoughts of what you'd like to share in the email blast, please let me know. Membership will be a big part of it. The Community Service Day as well will be. And then any updates that we can share about the mural as well.
Hey, Josh.
Yes.
I have a scary piece of new business. I was just thinking about this, and I probably know the answer, but does the community want to make any suggestions about Halloween and trick-or-treating? I mean, it's definitely a community-based thing. I think people are going to be concerned about it and how they deal with it.
I think we're still waiting on guidance from the county, right? I mean, that's what I've been watching for. Like, what are they? I'm assume there's going to be some kind of announcement about that.
I assume the county is going to say stay home.
Right. But I think a lot of people won't. And, I think we'll get kids and everything, and maybe to suggest, I don't know, putting individual packets out, which we all know some kids will abuse, but.
I was
yeah.
on a call recently where they were suggesting that you have a Halloween protest. Was that an RCA meeting?
No, but
Because
that's
you're allowed.
awesome.
Yeah, because you can protest, in a gathering. So we have a Halloween protest at the Civic Green, and
I mean,
and throw candy at each other.
I have Black Lives Matter signs. I'm good to go. I am all set on the protest front.
But
so.
this may be hijacking the agenda a little bit. But I mean, it's something to think about in terms of communicating what to do, because I think everybody has that question right now. I mean, it's October 1st, we're killing coyotes, and we're trying to figure out what's the October 30th. So I think that some kind of link or something like to be determined in the October blast would be good. I mean, I'm not saying we have to have our decision made up by the October blast email, but just hinting to where more information might become available on our website or something like that.
Yeah.
Be a little bit of a Grinch, we could put a very brief notice in the Echo right now saying people who would not want to open the door on Halloween will just have their front lights or their lights off. This little bit of Halloween etiquette that a lot of people don't know, but that might be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe that's actually a good point that we could put in the Echo this month. That traditionally the etiquette has been that houses with their lights off aren't participating in Halloween, and so that's a good way of signaling to people that you're not participating, regardless of any superseding county or even state guidelines. So I think I think that's a good point.
Maybe what we ought to do. Okay, so there is a. All right, so there is the CDC released some kind of Halloween guideline doc. Apparently, I haven't seen that yet. But maybe we ought to have a link to wherever, whatever county site might be a resource for people.
Yeah.
Yeah, part of my thought is just that it's been a crappy year for everybody, especially the kids. You hate to see them shoot out of Halloween. So I would say I like the idea of waiting to see what the county says, but I am afraid they're just going to stay so.
My daughter and son-in-law have built a chute like that comes from the window down.
Second story.
That dispenses candy from the second floor down.
What about beer?
It's a luge, Josh. Just put your mouth under it.
It's got a
Even better. And the vodka
Channel for the
kills
beer.
the virus, so that's good.
enough alcohol. Yeah.
Actually, hey Josh, before we leave and go to the old business,
Sure.
Community, who's like the main lead on the string cleanup?
I would get, yeah, I think it's probably Nell and myself.
Okay. I just, the reason I ask is I have a bunch of bags and gloves and stuff from previous ones that I can bring. So I'm sure, I think amongst all the board, we probably have tons of bags and gloves from the county over the various stream cleanups. I just want to make sure that I connected with you to let you know that I can bring those.
Thank you.
Before we go on to old business, I hope that the board received my email about 10 days ago. I had a question on that. I wanted to have a new format for the holiday caroling. Did you get that email?
Yes.
Very good.
Is there, what is your reaction on it? I had suggested to have a distanced gathering on the Sundays in December rather than milling about in a bunch, which we really wouldn't do. I would rather call it off. What is your idea, and would we get support for that from you?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I saw that Colby responded, and so I was, I was sort of deferring to him ultimately, because caroling isn't something that I've traditionally done. And so, you know, what you said, I think is totally reasonable. So I think if there's anything that we can do to support you, let us know. Like, I know that some, you know, like I think the county also, when they've had sort of these picnic areas, they've had that temporary spray paint on grass. And if you think that that's something that the Civic Association could help support, where we could effectively like mark the greens, so, you know, each family could have their little spot or something like that, please let us know. But, you know, I didn't see any issues with it. And I think you're a very reasonable person and would support what you think is reasonable.
Yep, sounds like.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Ah, thank you. Yeah, I saw Colby's email and I thought, oh, he's a very nice man. But I just didn't know how much, whether this was from the board or just in a personal email. So thanks to hear some more from you. I had also suggested, if you want to take that opportunity, then to have an RCA table there, to have, you know, again, that big bucket for fundraiser, and maybe get more people to sign up if you want to join that. But otherwise, I will write an article and invite people for Sunday afternoon, 3:30 caroling, if I have approval from you guys.
Should we do a vote?
I would second that.
Yeah.
How about this? Is anyone opposed? Okay.
Terrific. Thank you. Good.
Thank you.
Thumbs up. So,
What?
Just said thumbs up.
yeah.
Yeah. And remember, it's caroling and winter holiday songs.
Excellent.
Yep. So bring your fluffy mittens.
Yes.
The other thing is, I don't know if that's a separate point on the agenda. I had sent, I think, all of you artwork last night as a conceptual sketch for the mural. Any reaction to that?
So we actually do have the mural on our agenda. We can talk about it now.
All right.
So yeah, I saw it, and I think that we actually maybe Jack and Brian are both on the committee, but the RCF is largely sort of the holder of the mural. And so Jack and Brian, I can't actually recall if you were on the email. Did you receive?
I don't think I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I only looked what was in the echo, and I just wrote everybody's email. But here is my mural. Have a good look. Hold on. Here he comes. Here's the ocean. There are some children playing, and it goes right on. There's a whole train that goes all the way to the hills of, you know, where Maryland ends. And I had written a purpose statement with it too, because this whole wall is so very, very wide that I had an idea it could really just be the width, a cut through the state of Maryland with, you know, here is winter time with the skiers, snowboarders. Then we have springtime with the agricultural preserve. Here comes the whole train, which we all hear at night and all the time. And I even put the not malfunctioning street crossing there. And then we have our kids right on the civic green playing. We have the crabs and the fish in the Chesapeake Bay, and then we have the ocean. So that was just an idea where I thought it gives a sense of place and a sense of playfulness. And that was my conceptual idea. Of course, I'm not an artist or wouldn't know stylistically how to do it, but this would really be a concept if that's something that then all groups involved. This is a start. So that's was my idea.
Yeah, I wish Nell was here since she's the leader of the effort.
Oh.
But I think we still have a couple of steps because I think we welcome that kind of input. But we just need to understand, how we're going to take that input in, who's going to opine on it, and all that sort of thing.
Mhm. I'll send an email to the RCF folks and put the attachment in. That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
That's very much
Yeah,
what we've been talking about, Christiana, is the sense of place. So good ideas.
Okay. Thank you.
I think it was Nell that solicited that in the Echo, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think it was in her message that she was asking for ideas. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just hope we can get Alan to actually, actually step up on this. That's the real question mark.
Yeah.
Well, if not, I think Christiana can just go. We give Christiana some paint and she can go do it. She's the
Well, the woman who did the fishies, she's wonderful. I would love her to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been a lot more involved than I really thought he would, especially during these times when he's probably not making as much money off of his properties. So he's stepped up and continued to correspond with us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Nell also shared a few developments that I can share with the group. I think the RCF is throwing the idea of having someone like an artist in residence who could help lead sort of like community-based workshops, virtually meeting at this point to talk about the history of our area. And, Christiana, you already kind of sort of put that in your draft right there. I think Nell's been trying to get some rough numbers from people, and she's gotten numbers anywhere from about $3,000 to I think about $25,000 was the highest one. And so I think she'd be happy to see your ideas. And I think we're also just trying to think about ideas to make it affordable so that Alan Cronstadt will end up footing the bill, because otherwise we have to go searching for dollars through some kind of grant program, which, we can do. I just don't know if it's going to foot, a $25,000 bill.
Yeah. In that artist in residence, just to give context, it sounded like the RCF has a budget, and they were thinking of, it would be an artist in residence, funded through the by the RCF if it was in that lower range of cost, I believe.
Correct. Yeah, and I think VisArts has some. I don't really understand the program that much, but it seems like that's something that could be done through them. Okay. So I'm going to backtrack just for a moment here onto the Echo. Just a friendly reminder that we have a copy deadline this Friday, so please write an article if you haven't. Christiana, I think that we had an article that we didn't have room for last month. I don't know if I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. Is that something that you'd like to be considered?
No, it's no longer relevant. It was start of school. Don't forget it.
Okay. And Matt, for North Quarter, you had an agenda item to talk about I don't know what they're called, but the mail house effectively.
Yeah, I did a little bit of work on that. I talked to the guy at Heyman, the delivery, the outfit that handles our Echo delivery, and just made sure it was on his radar. It sounds like it's not. He double checked, and everything's still the postal routes haven't changed yet, so we're still okay with that. At some point, we're going to have to up the number of Echoes that we're printing because there's going to be more houses. So, but I don't know if it's really. I don't know how many houses are actually occupied at this point at North Quarter.
At this point, we probably have about 15 people, 15 families that have moved in. And I think that in terms of sales, they're probably around 30 at this point. The sales consultant wasn't here today. I was trying to get some updated numbers, excuse me, but he'll be back in tomorrow. so I can get some updated numbers. I can also get an actual address list if necessary, if that's helpful.
Did you guys get the September Echo?
I did, yes.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh,
We use something called Every Door Direct Mail. So it's kind of like the junk mail you get. Everybody gets one,
Awesome.
everyone on the route gets one. So we just have to make sure that the postal carrier has enough of them in his bag to do all the houses on his route.
Understood.
And if the route is getting longer, then we got to make sure that we up our numbers for that.
Yeah, we got 2.
Yeah, I have a feeling every time there's probably people who don't get it, just in a kind of on a random basis, because of that.
At least you didn't get 2 voting ballots. That's good.
Right, exactly. That would be more of a problem.
Okay. In terms of community service day, we still have social media outstanding that I'll put together this weekend. But the plan is to meet 9 a.m. Civic Green, Saturday, October 10th. We can gather, socially distanced for, about 15 minutes if people are interested in that part. And that's typically what happens during the RCF community cleanups anyway. We can have some donuts, and then from there we'll do a Boiling Brook cleanup. Lisa Cunningham's actually out of town during this one, and so I think she's actually going to be organizing through the Rock Creek Conservancy like a creek cleanup a few weeks later, and so I just wanted to flag that too. I want to kind of jump quickly because it's already 9:20, but Andre had actually emailed me about Thrive Montgomery, and Andre, just as an update to you, the county had actually solicited pretty broad feedback. I guess this was last winter, and the RCA had submitted some comments. So I'll share those comments with you, but they're actually pretty consistent with what Alan Bowser was talking about earlier. So we're talking a lot about tree canopy, east-west connections, pedestrian and bike safety, things like that. But Andre's email prompted me to get an update about Thrive Montgomery, which is also called the general plan. And they put out the draft plan, and I think it was presented today. And so I think that's something maybe we could talk about in November if we have time, or we can also talk about it on Slack. But it's a pretty extensive plan. I think it's about 100 pages long, and I recommend everyone taking a look at it and seeing it. But I saw a lot of the items that we put in our comments are addressed in there. I don't know if it's based on our feedback or we're just on the same page, but I did want to raise that for the group.
Great.
That's what I was going to ask, Josh. Did they have like a section where they talked about the people that submitted it? I don't think we ever got any feedback once we submitted it. I felt like it went into a little bit of a black hole there.
It did, yeah. I didn't actually have a chance to go through to see if there was sort of this comment response that you might see when a government agency does rulemaking or something like that. But I'll look at it later. I had like about 5 or 10 minutes to take a quick look at it this afternoon.
Thanks.
Yep.
Good.
Okay. So I actually saved I have my Echo accessible. And so I would like to move on to standard business and reports. And I would like to propose approving, the minutes from our September meeting. I'm looking for it, as published in the Echo. And apologies. Here we go. I think I heard a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So the minutes are approved from our September general meeting. Sorry. We don't have a treasurer with us tonight. So I would like to go to our committees, and we can start with public safety.
Okay. There is going to be a Zoom meeting. They did email me District 2. It's going to be October 13th. It's going to be a Zoom meeting. So if anybody wants to attend, let me know. I can. And I asked them if I could forward the Zoom link to anyone. Now, something just came up during the meeting about a hit and run or a drive-by shooting here in our neighborhood on Rock Road and Schuylkill. I live at Rock Road and Star Lane, and I didn't hear anything this weekend of that happening. So I'll check that out with Officer Dana Stroman, but I don't think that's correct. Just because, yeah. So, but something came up during the meeting with that. Other than that, there's been a few things like catalytic converters. That seems to be a topic where some people have had that stolen. I know Officer Dana Stroman wrote an article on Nextdoor. It was a couple months ago. You can check that out. But crime's been down except for a few. There has been some speeding increases and stuff like that. But for the most part, we're doing okay. So but I'll find out more after the Zoom meeting. That was October 13th, and I'll get more information on that if anybody else is interested. Sound good?
Thank you. Matt, did you have anything on environment?
Nothing really cooking right now. I mean, except for the coyote.
Are you cooking him in your kitchen?
Yes.
Okay. So with that, before we adjourn, is there any other pressing matter that someone would like to discuss that we haven't discussed yet?
It's not a pressing matter, but a question. My question has to do with which of the things on Slack are the best ways to communicate with the members of the board? Because I see messages coming in various different areas, and I'm not new to Slack. I find it a little confusing.
So they're supposed. You can always put something under the general. General is just kind of like a easy dumping area for whatever. We try to cover certain areas that come up again and again. We try to make them have their own conversation area. So if it has to do with meetings, then it's there, or if it has to do with the echo specifically, then it's there. So if you kind of look through those different categories, you can see what kinds of conversations are going on in each room.
Okay. I'm sure I can figure it out pretty closely.
Yeah, and you can always jump, but you can always just go in general. That's never, you're not going to get in trouble.
And Andre, it highlights the place where there's been recent discussions, the topics. So that's how I'm navigating around it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, random is the other dumping ground. Random is probably where we put all of the sarcastic or stupid things, I guess I would say.
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say snarky, but
yeah,
snarky works. Yeah, general is serious, random is snarky.
Okay, good to know.
I think the other one that's really interesting is like White Flint is where we put a lot of the more development oriented activities that are going on. So if the Friends of White Flint puts out something, or we see something within the sector plan is opening or closing, it might go into White Flint as well.
Got it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's for those that don't know. That's usually in reference to the sector plan area, not White Flint Mall or anything else. That's what it's short for.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that takes a little getting used to, but is very helpful, at the top left, there's a thing that says Threads.
Yes.
And that lets you see all the recent stuff. So if you can't remember, I know there was this conversation that was interesting, and I can't find it now. I don't remember which thing it was in.
Right.
If you hit Threads, you'll see what the most recent additions were.
Excellent.
Okay, and sometimes it's hard to tell when Tifford is being serious.
I
So
appreciate the heads up on that.
You usually puts a little like icon thing or something. That,
I mean, I'm almost never being serious, so you know we can just establish that.
Sounds like a good group then.
Put it on random. If you want to be sarcastic or funny, put it on random.
Does help.
Very good.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Thank you all very much. In November, we're actually going to have Jim Resnick from the Montgomery County Fire Department. I think he's a contractor now, but he was with them for several decades, talking a little bit about fire safety. And we're going to send him a little bit of information so we can make sure that it's tailored to, say for maybe Andre and I guess Hooker maybe too, about all the brick boxes that we live in.
Okay.
So with that,
on Macon Road, we live in stick houses.
Yeah. At least your part of Macon, that is. Okay, so with that, I'm going to motion to adjourn this meeting, and thank you, everyone.
Second.
Go ahead. Okay. Well,
Thank you.
I'm not even going to ask if anyone's opposed. Have a good night.
Good night.
Have a good night. Night, guys.